The salmon took off to the bottom of the water, and tipped the boat. That's what tipped the boat, I think. Something tipped the boat, overturned it.
Awful big salmon. I think the guy was trying to keep up with the salmon.
I don't know. I don't know what tipped it, but we went over anyway. And
It was just the three of you in the boat?
yeah.
Wow.
And I was the only one under the boat. They were on
God.
top of the boat.
Hope they were looking for you anyway.
No, they didn't seem to be. And so I was under the boat, and I said to myself, it shouldn't happen this way. And a voice came back and said, well, it is happening, you better do something about it. And I said to myself, I can't swim, and but I can dog paddle.
Right.
So I got myself out from under the boat and dog paddled quite a ways away from the boat. And I surfaced, and I could see these two guys sitting on top of the overturned boat quite a ways away.
Nice of them.
And they said, hang on to your life vest. So I did, and there was like a cliff at the edge of the water, and there was people watching people fishing and so on. And so they sent a boat out, a fishing boat, and
When they said hang on to your life vest, you should have said, you'll hear from my lawyer.
I hung onto my life vest, and because they had those killer whales. That's what the killer whales were. You know,
Yeah, orcas.
orcas. Yeah, and so when they came up to the boat came to me, and I was facing them, and they said, no, you got to turn around so we can lift you into the boat. So they lifted me into the boat and threw me on the bottom. I felt like for the fish, you know, that they catch. And they took me to the shore, let me out of the thing, and I had to walk. And
So there was like no ambulance waiting or anything like
no,
that?
and I said, and we met some people, and they said, wow, you took a swim. And then I finally got into the building. I forget what they were doing there. And I went to the ladies' room, and I couldn't stop shaking. And finally, some people were there that were going back to the lodge, and they said, we'll take you back. So on the way back, I'm looking at the road, and I think, oh, this is such a dusty road. It's awful. You know, I was talking to myself kind of. And the little voice came in and said, you're lucky you could see that road. You know, you're lucky you're here. That I shut up. And the one woman said, you got to get back on the horse. You got to, you know. And I thought, so she crazy. And so they drove me back to the lodge, and they're Joe and what was her name?
Jane?
No, not Jane.
Oh, Jessica.
Jessica. Joe and Jessica were there, and they didn't know what happened. And the thing I wanted to do the most was take a bath. I wanted to be in friendly waters. Yeah, not waters that were trying to kill me. And so they had this big get together that night, and I wore this big sheet with a picture of a salmon on it. There was a salmon on the front of it, and the guy that was in the boat, the guide, he said, "You almost got us fired here. You almost got us killed out there." I said, "You're blaming me for it, you know."
Right.
And it was really traumatic. And on the way back to Seattle, Joe and Jessica and I all figured we'd make a movie out of it with Maureen Stapleton playing my part. Crazy. And I remember the next day, Joe was digging out cellars. That's what he was doing for a living then. Digging out cellars, and I was hauling the dirt away. He'd bring the dirt to the edge, and I'd take it away. And I was so grateful that I could do that I was there rather than under the ground, you know, someplace. And it was quite a traumatic thing.
So now that you're 95, are you glad that happened? Is this something that really changed you, or would you rather it hadn't happened at all?
Oh, it changed me all right. It sent me right back home. I didn't want any part of.
I thought it was like a rebirth for you.
No, I'm wrong. I came back home and I thought, this is a message for me. I don't belong here. I belong in Seattle. So I quit my job and I got in the thing and I went back to Seattle, which Jessica wasn't all thrilled with. And
Who? Go on.
And
What year was this?
how old was I then?
70s? Well, it must have been like 30 years ago.
No, it wasn't that long.
35.
Maybe 35. I don't know.
Because
I was in my
Casey's
60s, I
Casey's
think.
close to 30 himself.
Yeah, Joe and Jane have been married for 30
Yeah.
something years.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Ed and I were together when this happened, right?
You were in your 60s.
Yeah, I was in my 60s.
So
yeah.
you were not a kid.
No, but I was going to move out there. I was going to go out there. And the big thing was, when I got to the airport, I had to take a different plane than I planned to take. And I forgot to call Joe and tell him I was arriving on a different plane. And they couldn't find me.
Oh gosh.
And Jessica lit into me and told me I was irresponsible and whatever.
She sounds like a real jewel.
So I made up my mind I was leaving. I was not staying there at all. And I told him I wanted to find a place of my own. And I got a motel room or something. And finally, I decided to come back home. It was around Christmas time. I went down to John's and Chris's and with Joe at first Christmas, and then I went back home.
I think Joe learned something about Jessica at that time as well.
No, I don't know.